Grumping, eh? No, 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 no. Mustn't do that. Forbidden fruit.
Who wrote this?
Hello, everybody. We are three men talking about men.
3 men, not
So-
4.
Something about there.
Damn it.
Yeah.
One of us is not included.
I'm not a man today.
I'm not. Well, listen,
I'm just
I'm
a
not.
voice.
Crimson's
we're-
just a boy.
Avoid.
That's fine. I'll identify as a hologram for today. It's okay.
Okay. 3 men in a hologram. Not men.
Yeah. So this is a little probably a bit. Probably going to be if you watch the first one and you're now watching this one, or you're watching the previous one and then you're watching this one, it's going to be a little bit of a jump as far as genre and theme is concerned.
A little.
Artsy in here.
Artsy.
They're both slightly horror.
Yeah,
Yeah.
slightly. I think this one's more.
I think I was lied to on
Yeah,
both times. I went in expecting horror for both movies, and I got none of that. I got elements, maybe.
Yeah. Well, if you were a woman, this would be a horror movie.
That's right.
I think that's the
Ryder's
theme.
just a hologram.
Yeah. Anyways, so this is Men. Just came out this last year, 2022. Done by Alex Garland of Ex Machina fame.
I actually didn't know that there was that guy. Wow.
Yeah.
And I believe Annihilation. Was this the one?
Yeah, Annihilation. He also did the screenplay for 28 Days Later. So
Yeah, he's got some
Uh,
got some decent work under his
yeah.
belt.
yeah.
To be fair,
I'm also being. Somebody just passed me a note that we should introduce ourselves. Otherwise, this will be really weird. I guess we'll go in order as we normally do then.
Okay. Hello everyone. I'm a geeky writer. I write things. That's my gig.
And I'm Crimson Maroon, and I'm just here commenting.
I am Sinister Boy, and I am running today, but not always.
And I'm Sprinks. That's pretty much what I say every time.
Sure, that didn't disrupt the flow at all. You know who you are, but yeah. So he's a guy who he's a man who knows how to write for men. I don't know. Is that a good segue there? Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's a good segue.
Yeah.
This is this director's third movie.
Yeah.
Yes. This is
Okay.
well, yeah. Directed. I think he's written and produced for.
Yeah. Going off of his history of Ex Machina, that actually explains the color saturation is why it's so gorgeous in this movie.
That was one of my favorite elements of this, was all the scenic shots of nature. They're all very good.
This movie definitely itched a couple of things for me in that I love the English folklore elements of it. The cinematography and the English countryside is definitely very good. Soundtrack is really good too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Like
that's 2 songs I remember. I good.
Well, I was just talking about the overall music, but okay, you can undermine
Well,
me there.
I'm not the music guy. I don't appreciate music. 2 stood out for me.
That and also I loved all the variety of English accents that was thrown out there.
Who said that? Oh,
The guy.
on Jeff. On Jeff. I'm the nice guy.
I don't want to. No, he wasn't that. He was more like more posh. He was supposed to be like no, been straight, kind of softly spoken. And then he had
I talk about the cop.
the
I
cop.
remember how the cop sounded.
That's why I said a variety of English accents because I couldn't remember all of them.
Yeah.
Cockney, Liverpool.
No, there was not. No, I meant in the movie. There was no
Wales.
Cockney in the movie. Wales. Wales, they don't even speak, they have their own language.
That's true.
That is true.
It's true.
Yeah.
And it's, I believe it's one of the most difficult languages, apparently. It's very strange.
Whaley, it's strange.
Oh, it's Welsh. Welsh language. It's a Celtic language. Whaleys, yeah, the Whaleys.
Wow.
I'm
Yeah,
sure
Whaleys.
yeah.
There's
yeah.
probably a restaurant
Oh,
there named
You ever listen
Whaley's.
to the Whaley's music? Man.
No, it's a European country, Crimson. They don't have any kind of. They wouldn't do that.
They wouldn't,
All right.
but they. You know what? Send it over. Give them a note.
Hey, one business owner will change their name
to the Whaleys.
to Whaley's. Yes.
But yeah, I think that Jessie Buckley is the main main actress in this. The only one of two non-men in this whole picture, or one of three non-men in this picture.
Yeah.
Yes.
Her friend and the lady cop.
Yeah.
I actually.
The lady. Yeah.
I meant to ask: was the lady cop also the repeated?
No.
No.
I don't. No.
It was not a Jeff face.
Okay.
No.
I didn't remember.
Yeah. No. It was. That's. Yeah. When we were.
Upon reflection, I had to think about that one.
Yeah. One of. Yeah. It was. When me and Crimson were watching it together. That's what I was like. The first thing I was like, wow. I was looking for it because I was like, I think it has to be, and then it wasn't. It wasn't a Jeff face.
Yeah. I also don't remember
Added to the mystery.
if you thought the same, Sinister, but the friend while on the phone, I couldn't tell if that was Jeff or not.
Yeah. Well, it's weird because I
she
like.
had an interesting face.
Yeah.
So
she was probably one of like the two. I knew like the main actress, Jessie Buckley, and I was like the friend looked familiar, but I couldn't like place where I recognized her from, and she was in an HBO Max, the Perry Mason revival show. She was in that, and I was like, oh wow, that's really weird that she's American and she's in a very, very English
Very English movie.
Yeah, this is I believe this would fall under the term of folk horror probably. I mean that's probably giving it that's probably going a little bit far because I would agree that with the geek that this is not so much a horror, probably more of a psychological sort of
it's
thriller.
There is a story here, but it's very abstract.
Yeah,
very abstract.
It's definitely like something where I think you could do kind of almost like a litmus test with this, and have like 10 people watch this, and they'd probably all come out with very different opinions and ideas about what the
hell happened.
yeah, what the hell happened and what kind of movie it is, because it is sort of like this. It dabbles in a lot of stuff. Like I said, I saw a lot of folk horror elements, but I could definitely also see just some basic, two-person drama, or monologues and whatnot.
I had to pull out like my old like symbolism book for this movie. It feels like because just a lot of, like I said, there's not really much in terms of like, I guess, hard written script for this movie. A lot of it's very visual in its storytelling, and the symbolism also helps tell the story. So, and symbolism is very, very typically subjective. So I'm sure I got a completely different story than everyone else here.
Yeah. Well,
what's the significance of that stupid pillar?
That pillar.
That's
stupid pillar.
Something I cannot figure out for the life of me.
Well, from what I like, because we had a little bit of a conversation after we watched the movie together, Crimson, and I was gonna look into it because I do remember I recognize the iconography from a bunch of other little medieval stories that I used to read when I was younger, but I believe it's supposed to be a fertility god, and I might be reaching. I think it's supposed to be like the Green Man or something.
Mm-hmm.
Which, if you go to certain, I think villages outside of in the countryside, they still have like little pagan remnants of stuff, especially even in like Catholic or Christian churches out there. There's still that little iconography and whatnot.
Yeah.
And I believe that was kind of supposed to be a main focus of it, but I think again it's just more symbolism that's sort of touching on a bunch of different stuff. I would like to defer a little bit because Sprinks was the one who introduced me pretty much to Alex Garland. He showed me Ex Machina. I was curious if you found any kind of similarities between this and that in any way.
I did mostly in the it was the what he likes to do, and also in Annihilation. I've seen all three of those works. He likes to do good establishing landscape shots to show like where it is, the nature, very very nature focused parts, but usually during serious conversations between two characters, there's like little to no music at all. Maybe ambience noise in the background, but it's very much just dialogue, which has appeared in all three films.
Yeah.
So that's something I picked up on.
It's similarly something that like Game of Thrones likes to do. There's typically no music for dialogue because it helps, I think, like imply the importance of the dialogue when it stands on its own, among other things.
Well, and it feels more organic.
Yeah.
I think, realistic, because obviously you wouldn't normally have. I mean, I know you wouldn't have music playing in the background when you're having a conversation with somebody in real life, but it kind of, and it adds that little bit of tension because you're kind of expecting it to be there, and then when it's not there, it seems odd.
Mm-hmm.
But another thing that I think it's a little bit. I have not seen Annihilation, but so I'm going off more Ex Machina, but I'm sure and as the Sprinks has already stated, there's definitely similarities in all three of these with his own personal with Alex Garland's own views. But I think something that I'm noticing between this and Ex Machina is a lot of like silence, or I guess nobody talking, or not having any sort of dialogue, but just seeing
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I noticed that. I've seen Annihilation as well, and there were definitely quiet moments where it was just like there was this moment where Natalie Portman and her troop, I guess, were walking through the forest, and it was just the forest sounds. That's it.
Which they did again in Men, and then they also did that in Ex Machina, right?
Yeah,
that I haven't seen. So
I remember it in Ex Machina for sure. Because that's
I like that use of negative space where and I think it's generally you'd expect it in like a horror or something for like a jump scare. So then you're unintentionally on the edge of your seat, and you're very tense about it, and then just nothing happens with it, and it's sort of
interesting.
So
you see it as more of a tense buildup. I see it more of as a okay. So far in the examples of the three, I see it more of a processing part. Like you just came out of a scene that revealed something usually, and now it's just quiet part to give you more like a thinking, like, oh, does that change something beforehand? What's that going to mean for the future of like what's going to happen next kind of thing? So I feel like that's more just like a think rather than a go kind of type of movie.
Yeah.
I could agree with that as well.
Yeah, I do like the natural ambiance just because it introduces like Spring said, it introduces I don't really feel the tense thing. I feel more of like calm before the storm. Like this is like it's the story / movie's way of trying to tell you it's okay to relax here. Yeah. Which is because normally in a horror movie, that sort of ambiance does indicate a tense buildup, whereas with the Ex Machina and Annihilation and this one, it feels more like they are moments to breathe, they're moments to think, and they're moments to ponder, and you kind of just with the characters sometimes you just kind of get a sense of like adventure or freedom sometimes as well. You know, as you're exploring your surroundings and listening to the ambience. So
Yeah, you know what? I can agree with both those views.
Yeah, in this movie, I think utilizes both. Where she was walking through the forest before she finds the tunnel. It was pretty quiet, just the nature stuff, and I viewed that as just her current mindset. She's kind of free of her burdens at this point.
Oh, interesting.
Just walking through the nature, and then later down the line, when she's going through the forest, getting chased by the guy, and sees the little abandoned village or whatever that was.
Yeah.
That was when she started wandering and stopped running. That was a fairly quiet scene as well, but that one felt different because we just came off of a guy chasing her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, two different uses of violence, relatively close to each other.
And I mean, I do think, and I think it is a sign of it. I'm not going to go out on a limb and say it's the sign of a great filmmaker, but I do think it's a very special quality of a filmmaker to be able to utilize silence or something not happening.
Yes, I 100% agree with that.
Pretty rarely used nowadays.
It's really rare. It's rarely used nowadays, and it's this like my favorite storytelling trope is when things get quiet. I love the calm before the storm. Those are typically my favorite trope. So when everything's relaxing, it can also lull you into that false sense of security for something to then subvert it later on when the horror elements are starting to be introduced. So it's like I said, they used it to great effect in this film for sure.
I think I do think they, like there is the calm before the storm silence, or the thinking silence, and then there's also that sort of tense, very fixed silence where you're waiting for something to happen because you know it's going to happen.
Yeah.
But you don't know when it's going to happen, and it's and it is that like almost like a negative space on and I think it is it is an interesting quality because it doesn't happen very much, I think, these days in a lot of movies. I think it's kind of, it should make a comeback. It's,
great.
Is there one scene in any Marvel movie that takes silence? The only thing I think of is like Thanos sitting after Infinity War.
Yeah,
that's all I can think of.
That's not really silent though, because it's got music going on in the background.
Did that have music?
Yeah.
I don't remember.
I mean, we just talked about. Yeah, it had a little bit of music at the end, which led into the credits, which was very dark kind of music. But then, only thing that comes to mind to me was we just talked about in this last episode of Multiverse of Madness when they're all in the tunnels and the water's falling very slowly. There's like barely even breathing.
I'm trying.
That wasn't a little bit of sound. Part. Yeah, it's like that kind of.
That was definitely that jump scare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's definitely that. There's definitely sound effects or whatever going on in that scene, but it's probably one of the most quiet. I would, as far as like no instrumental going on. But I was going to say that because I remember my first experience with kind of that sort of calm before the storm. And I'm sure I heard this earlier, but this is like probably the earliest one that I can conjure up. But was Akira Kurosawa's Yojimbo. There's not a lot of dialogue. It's probably I think it's like an hour and a half long or an hour and 45. And there's probably only about like maybe 30 minutes of talking, probably. My memory of it. And the rest of it is these kind of establishing shots and these, long pannings and, wide angles and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But it's all, and very little music. Very, and it's only really bombastic when stuff is happening. and then otherwise it's very subtle. Even if it's like being used, it's very subtle, and you kind of almost don't notice it.
Is this an old film?
Yeah, this is from the This is a '60s one. It's probably one of his most well-known ones, but or as far as westernized, or because I always found it very funny that all the best westerns are based off of Japanese samurai movies. And this is definitely and this, if you watch this and then you watch like Clint Eastwood's like The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly or whatever, it's basically like the same movie, but spaghetti western, and
spaghetti western with samurai.
Yeah, definitely a lot more music and less quiet. But and I don't know if it was like I don't know if it was a aesthetic choice or if it was just because I think they tended to not use a lot of dialogue in a lot of those at least samurai films at the time, because it was mainly all about the action scenes. But this one is actually, I think, a little bit more artistic in its choice of that. But it's it's weird because I think if you watch like 90% of movies that come out now, it's not at all like that. Something has to be. There has to be some sort of sound, and I think people are just inherently like almost afraid of silence.
There's a bit of There's a bit of existentialism that comes with silence, because silence invites thought, and thinking is a dangerous pastime sometimes.
That's true.
I know you hate this example, Sinister, but I'll bring up Civil War again.
Hey, go on. Yeah.
Like for me, the dialogue conversation between with the whole team sitting down reading the Sokovia Accords, and there's no music playing. It's just showing the dialogue, and they're talking about their varying perspectives and ideas. Like that to me is very important and integral for the rest of the story, because the rest of the story can't really function without that scene. But their use of silence is very important here, because we as an audience are also invited to think along with them. Like where would you side? Where would your moralities lie? That sort of thing. So I find silence isn't used very often, because at least more, it's not used as often as anymore, because of the very nature that it does invite philosophical thought, and that it does invite you to think about what's happening on screen, or that sort of to that level degree of detail. And that's why that's part of why I ended up really, I think part of me really likes this movie, is because of that use of silence, and it feels like a dying art.
Yeah, I think the last movie I saw that was a lot like this, I saw a couple years ago. It was called The Killing of a Sacred Deer, and it was probably it was pitched to me as a horror movie like this one, but it wasn't really horror in the way that I'd come to like expect, in like the form of like gore and blood and violence and everything. There were some scenes of violence, or what have you, but it was probably about 2 hours long, and I found that by the end of it, I'd been so clenched, like I had been so like tense like the entire time, even though nothing had really like happened, but nothing had ever like released it.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking, I was like, and then as I watched more of the kind of recent, I guess, horror fare stuff that it was calling itself horror, or was under the horror moniker, was more of a psychological approach to it, because I think, and with a lot of the newer ones, I don't know if I would call them horror in the same terms, but this stressfulness, this kind of waiting, this apprehension of waiting for
something to happen,
Suspense.
Or
some sort, that suspense, but held, instead of like for one scene, it was like held throughout like a whole movie, or like and I think it wasn't even just that, it was the idea of like there were all these quiet moments in between, like only like a couple of lines of dialogue and then nothing else, and it was just kind of, it was so open that it was, and I was so used to waiting for something to happen that I was just kind of waiting for that punch, that stomach punch to just go in, and I didn't even realize that how like tense it had made me, or how unwilling to kind of just let it be quiet and not have something happen, I guess, in my own self.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, Men. What a movie.
Let's talk about the movie.
So I guess we'll give a little synopsis. Sorry if it's a little crazy. We're trying out a bunch of different formats, and so this is a totally different one from the last one. So if you saw the last one, this isn't at all like it, and you're really upset. Sorry.
Yeah.
I was just thinking, let us know which one you prefer.
Yeah, let us know one you prefer, but don't yell at us. We're trying.
Still in the testing phases.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Still trying to find our identity. Yeah.
Yeah. So, a little synopsis of this movie. Anyone remember the name? I don't want to keep calling.
I believe it was called Men.
No. Okay. All right.
Nice
Very funny. Very funny. Very funny, everybody.
Her name was Harper. Her ex was James.
Okay. Yeah. So, a woman, Harper, we open on her having a fight with her, I assume either boyfriend or husband. It's a very nasty kind of,
I think I wrote down husband.
Yeah, I believe it's husband, yeah.
Yeah, because she wanted a divorce.
Mm-hmm. And, and he said, well, if you leave me, I'm going to, kill myself. All the classics of, a terrible, toxic.
all the hallmarks of
relationship.
Yeah.
Was it short at the beginning?
No, at the beginning it was just him falling.
Yeah, it was just. I think the beginning of him falling was kind of just a hook into her.
What was going on?
Yeah, and then we kind of transitioned from that into her arriving. I think at this very, very isolated village.
So sorry, there's a bit of flashbacking here, so it's hard to keep.
Yeah, they all kind of blend.
Yeah.
It's like 4 flashbacks.
Yeah.
To the same thing.
With the flash, so it's about her, or I'm not saying it's not about her, but so essentially the outset of this is it's her trying to recover from this very traumatic experience and having her own thoughts about what occurred or how responsible she was in the larger picture. She has a friend who she FaceTimes with every now and again, pops up, and she's kind of like the hype master, I guess, of the trying to.
I think the calmer.
Enjoy your vacation.
Yeah.
Don't let a naked man ruin it for you.
Yeah, her friend is the hype person for this vacation for sure.
Yeah, trying to just let her enjoy it and not overthink it or what have you. Yeah, the village has a lot of colorful characters.
All named Jeffrey.
All named not all named Jeffrey, but all looking like the same person.
A priest named Victor, a weird child named Simon, I think.
The vicar.
Was it Vicar?
The
Vicar, Victor. One of the two.
Well, I think the vicar is Victor, but yeah, Vicar Victor. Oh. And they're all played by, I think his name is Ray Kinnear, or essentially not all of them, but they all have his face essentially.
Especially Simon.
Yeah. Simon is it's a little bit of an uncanny valley.
Yeah. Sadly, the only thing I know this person from is Black Mirror, and that was not a very great episode.
It seems like from that. Yeah. I was getting that vibe.
Was that the pig episode?
Yes, it was.
Yep. Yeah, the pig episode.
How's it good?
I didn't know that until you said Black Mirror. Like, oh, that's not where I know from. Makes sense.
Yeah, that traumatized all of us, and I still apologize for that.
I still think it was better than the second episode, but that's a different topic for anybody.
Yeah, that's if you want us to do Black Mirror, the pig fucker. Isn't that not the title of it? Isn't that what it is? Is it? That can't be. That's not. It's not called that, is it?
No, it's something else. But
it's okay. So everybody was saying like, yeah, I'm like, that's not it.
It just summarizes the traumatic event of the entire episode.
Yeah, it's probably
he did it to save a little girl or something. Yeah.
I no,
That's not relevant.
It's not.
That's not relevant here. No.
Moving on.
So I think probably the best part is that she doesn't recognize this at all. That all these men are like the same person. I think that makes it all the more weird.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of good cinematography, I think, throughout this. There's a scene where she's just traveling around the English countryside. Comes upon a tunnel. She what does she do, Crimson?
Oh, she starts making music with the echo of the tunnel.
I think we all thought it was like the theme.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
that's in the trailer.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
and it's in the
They played it through the trailer, yeah.
Yeah, it's weird because I found it very relaxing, but then in the trailer I also found it very like disconcerting.
Yeah,
it's
very
strange.
eerie.
Yeah, it's very.
Yeah, it was eerie. Once the guy stood up in the tunnel.
Oh god, yeah. So yeah.
I mean, it was relaxing in that, like, okay, she's just expressing herself, and then it turns into something like tense and foreboding.
Yeah. So then there's a guy or a figure. I'll say a figure who stands up at the end of this very, 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 very long tunnel, like ridiculously long. Like you don't even want to know. It's like really long.
I honestly, I thought this figure that set up, I thought that was Stellan Skarsgård.
It could have been.
I thought it was him, but I don't know.
As somebody who has fears of like very long, dark hallways, that definitely got me a little bit, or at least
a specific name. Is there an actual phobia for that?
I'm sure it's probably just like an unknown thing. It's not even like a hallway. It's not even probably like specified. It's probably just like some catch-all term thing. But at least I don't know. I just don't like long, dark hallways. But
that could. I'm assuming you're not claustrophobic, because that could be claustrophobic.
No, I'm not claustrophobic. No. I don't think it's so much the hallway part. I think it's just the dark part. But neither here nor there. Don't psychoanalyze me.
Do you think the figure in the tunnel was one of Jeff's we've seen, or some other guy we never met?
That was something that even after we finished it, I wasn't sure if it was supposed to be or not, or if it was kind of just supposed to be this.
Every guy has been Jeff, so it has to be a Jeff.
I thought that was the first introduction to the naked one.
No, that guy had a jacket on.
Yeah, that's I was like, it wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't the same. I think it was meant to be it was meant to make you almost think, like.
My first thought was like creepy homeless man.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, like tramp. Yeah.
Yeah,
like the classic,
I can agree with that. That's kind of what I thought as well.
The aqualung figure, if you will. But nobody's gonna get that. Yeah. All right, let's. So gets up. This figure starts coming. Is he going really fast, or is he going? He was
doing like a double, a nice jog. I thought it was like He wasn't trying to close the distance in any like menacing way.
You could definitely tell that he was like going.
He was charging.
He wasn't going to be stopping anytime soon, probably.
Yeah.
Obviously. Yeah.
Sorry, I thought. Okay, another thing. I thought the silhouette outline of this figure. I thought he was like in a suit and tie.
Yeah,
that's what I thought.
Yeah, same.
Like I got that.
Definitely a suit.
Yeah.
I don't remember if there was a tie flapping, but
it was. It was very. I'm sure if I saw that like in real life, I would shit my pants.
Yeah, all of us would run.
Oh, yeah, wonderful! Satan came in his dressed up uniform to come get me. Time to leave.
And
so I didn't know if that was literally the Jeff we knew.
I don't think so.
Kind of had a passable outfit.
Yeah. I'm sure it was probably supposed to be, but I don't think it. I don't think it was ever meant to kind of symbolize
it was a priest.
No. And you know what? It might have just been one of the other three people that didn't look like Jeff, and it was just meant to,
Yeah, it was the policewoman.
Yeah, there you go. So she goes off running. She can't find her way back. Classic thing. She gets, turned around and everything. And she ends up into this abandoned village, which you've talked about a little bit. And she takes a picture of it in this very open field. Another classic little horror trope.
Yeah.
And he's a naked man just standing there, just, his sausage and 2 bits out.
Yes.
Only a little creepy. It's not
just a tad bit that he was just standing there staring at her. Yeah.
Crimson, do you remember if it was this scene or if it was only the scene after this that I laughed?
It was the scene after at the house.
Okay, all right. Yeah. So again, I would probably also in real life I would piss myself, scared, because that would freak me the hell out.
Mm-hmm.
If I didn't see something that I took a picture. Yeah.
I don't think I would have ran, but I would have definitely started walking.
Well, that was the other thing. She didn't run. She just kind of gingerly walked away.
Making my way downtown, walking fast, walking faster.
Yeah. You sped walk. Yeah. I mean, and then you just left him there standing.
Up in his house.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's abandoned shack.
Yeah. When I saw this abandoned village, I thought they were. It made me think of M. Night Shyamalan's The Village, where I thought the trope was going to be that, because I didn't realize that the townspeople were all the same actor until much later. Yeah, the bar scene was the confirmation for me. I'm like, the kid and the priest look very similar. Is it the same person? And then I saw the policeman. I'm like, I wasn't sure. And then the bar scene was where I got it confirmed.
Yeah, for me it was the probably seeing the kid was I was like, okay, I guess everybody in here just looks the same.
Yeah,
I got it seeing the first cop when the cop was arresting the naked man.
I think it's I think they did a good enough job, I think, with the first the first couple introductions where they all kind of look different, and that Jeff has the nose thing, and then Victor has the long white hair,
and the teeth. Victor also,
and the teeth, yeah. So I think they did at least a good job where they kind of managed to cover it up. But then if you rewatch it, you'd be like, oh yeah.
They all have very distinct features, but yeah.
Same face.
Same face.
So then, did you have anything, Springs, that you wanted to jump on in these couple scenes, or?
There was one thing they showed prior when it was probably the first instance where Harper, was it?
Yeah.
When she's talking on the phone with her friend, it starts glitching out, but images shown while it's glitching out, this weird, someone yelling, kind of monstrous looking face. That's never shown or explained what that is, or talked about at all what it is. It's it's glitching out, but it's showing weird imaging.
It happens 2 times in this movie on that phone, and it's never explained.
I only
this movie.
Yeah, everything is just like I said. Everything is up to interpretation. I guess I have a question for you all. Kind of on jumping back a little bit with the whole apples joke, and when she arrives at the house and the scrumping apples. I got an Apple of Eden kind of vibe, that's when I got a Garden of Eden kind of vibe, I literally wrote down Eve hath come to sin. That's kind of where I kind of got a vibe from that. I was just curious if you all saw that as well.
Yeah, I definitely.
Parallel I made because I don't really know much. I know apples have a lot of iconography tied to them, but Adam and Eve is pretty much all I kind of linked to. So I thought that, but I didn't know any significance to why.
I will say it's an interesting choice with the apple because biblically there's a lot of it's knowledge, but it's also fertility, and it's also it's a bunch of it's a very wide ranging where again if you're a certain red person that you see it one way, and then if you're different you see it a different way. And I think that was an interesting choice to kind of choose that specific one that can have such a wide range of symbolism, especially for this film. Yeah, but I think I mainly saw it as the Adam and Eve, sort of forbidden, like forbidden fruit.
If it is because they do refer to it as forbidden fruit, how's that applicable to what happened to the movie? How do you think it's tied in?
That was the other thing. I was like,
I think abstract.
The Adam and Eve thing, yeah. But I don't know how it plays in.
In the abstract, like I said, there's so many abstract interpretations of this. One of them was that I got was the idea, because the movie is about men, pretty much. The idea that while women, the concept I got from where I got it is that she is still held responsible as it's part of her sin, I guess, is kind of where I got that whole apple thing. Because I don't know whether I don't know what I guess the result of that affair was entirely. Whether she was held responsible for his death by the police or not, or whether she was blamed. So the very abstract thing that I got from it was she bears some responsibility, whether she deserves it or not, I guess. And that's
and maybe it's like the this is touching on something that goes on later, but because if we're going off of like the version of the fruit of knowledge or whatever, that she has this sort of knowledge of what was happening that nobody else is like privy to, I guess, or only sees it, like because the relationship we touched on also was in some ways toxic and not healthy for either.
Yeah.
But unless you were in it, you probably wouldn't see that. So she has this sort of knowledge of that, that relationship that other people don't have, and would change your understanding of it, perhaps. I don't know. Crimson, do you have something maybe?
Yeah, that's the problem. I don't know, because Jeff said, "I don't eat that. That's forbidden fruit," and it was played off as a joke. But
yeah, and then he's like, "Don't worry
about
it."
Does that make him God? God warned Adam and Eve not to eat the apple.
Well,
but then he plays it off as a joke.
All men were made in God's image.
What's Rex?
Are you saying just Jeff is the indicator of God, or are you saying the collective of all these clones?
Well, we haven't even established what the heck the clones are, or if they're clones at all.
I'm just the twins.
In this context, it would have been Jeff, because that's what they've all established to have their own personalities, I think. So I would say Jeff.
Okay.
I think I just got the symbolism here.
Oh, okay. Let's hear it.
No, the idea of men were created in God's own image.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they all look alike because they're all in, or they're all related in that way.
God's within everyone's hearts.
Yeah. But they're all monsters on the inside. What does that say? Yeah.
Technically, it's people. People were created in God's image. But for this specific symbolism, I think they're going for the men. Abridged Bible version.
Yeah, I got a bit of that too. All right. Sorry, I just wanted to drag us back to that because I thought the apple, the significance of the apple, I thought was I was curious to see how that.
They keep coming back to it. They they keep bringing up apples and scrumping and things. So I mean,
what do you think is the significance of them all falling off the tree at one point is? Because they focus on that a bit. All the apples fall off the tree. I assume that's connected. It's just danger.
Danger.
That's what they tried to convey our character should be feeling at that moment. But I assume there's symbology.
What was changed.
Remember what happened to Newton? Don't do that.
Yeah, he got famous off of apples.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely think it might be a little bit too vague for the sake of interpretation. But it is an interesting, choice if nothing else for, I guess, representation.
Yeah.
But it's definitely, I think it's definitely probably a little bit too open-ended if we're all having various degrees of, which, I mean, not a bad thing either, but, it's definitely hard to pin down what does it mean in its entirety. But it's a good segue because we're back at the house of the tree.
Yep.
Yeah.
So quick, little run through. I was there a flashback at some point in here? I think there was.
Yes,
there's flashbacks throughout the film.
I know.
Yeah,
but I'm
like they appear.
Yeah, there was a couple things here. She had a bath scene. There was a reference because earlier in the film she points out she can't play the piano, and then we find her playing the piano here, like just fine.
She lied.
Yeah. So she lied, and then I thought it was interesting because there's I thought there was also interesting because at this point I was looking more for visual cues on the story to kind of fill in the character a bit. I noticed that there was a chess set earlier, and then the chess set in this scene there were all white pieces. There were no black. Whereas with the earlier scene, there was a black. There was a black set for the chess board.
Oh, I never caught that.
I wrote that down too.
Yeah, and I thought that was interesting. Because I thought the implication was like, okay, so she's not playing a game. I was curious to see if that symbolism would be picked up later at all. So I ended up noting that down.
Well, it may have actually.
There's a couple things that.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say there's that one. I don't know. It's kind of towards like after halfway through the film, where she's running down the stairs. I think it's after the bathroom thing, but she's running down the stairs and going out the front door. But then it goes back to her running down the stairs, but this time with a knife. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if like that's two indications of herself, or one is what she's thinking. Just all these interpretations of it. But that could connect to you said chess set of both white sides. If there's if it's her against her own self.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, that's kind of what I read with the like when she lied about being able to or not being able to play the piano. In some way maybe she's running from her true self, and by covering it up, she doesn't have to face it in some way, or she doesn't have to own up to anything, maybe, or or I guess whether she has to own up to anything is her own, it's her own self, or her own version of what she thinks she has to own up to. But
yeah, I didn't know how to read that because I know personally if that was me that lied about piano, it's because Jeff would have asked me to play something I didn't want to.
Oh, maybe. Oh,
it could just be like avoiding talking,
or
stuff
kind
like
of,
that.
or this kind of
trivial as that,
or maybe even like this idea of having to present yourself to some, you know what I mean? Like having to almost like exhibition yourself, I guess, to somebody.
Yeah.
And kind of and also if we're once we get to what happened in her last little relationship, maybe the idea of opening up to somebody is very raw, and so that's it. And as a musical person myself, playing for other people is a very not traumatic, but it's a very
can be stressful. Yeah,
it's stressful. It's an emotional experience, and it's you're kind of opening yourself up to somebody a little bit.
And there's a reason why I don't read my writing out loud to people.
Yeah, it is just kind of it's a very you have to trust somebody, I think, to yourself. Obviously I think more for writing than music, but it's
Oh, it's the same thing. You're creating something. It's whenever you're creating something, you're expressing yourself. So similar experience there. Don't want to degrade either one.
Yeah. But so I don't know. There's a lot of stuff we can read into in this one. I didn't notice most of this stuff myself, so it's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, and, I mean, there's also things they could have thrown in without having a payoff.
Yeah.
Like the chess, the chessboard could literally mean nothing.
Yeah.
It could mean something. They pointed out the axe at the fireplace.
Yeah.
I thought it was gonna be a Chekhov's gun scenario.
Yeah.
And she grabs it later, but she doesn't use it.
Yeah.
At least on screen. So I don't know. Things could mean things, or they could not mean anything.
Yeah.
Do you think that's almost in a way like on purpose to sort of use the
they could be
tropes?
They could be trying to pull us in certain directions with expectation and just not doing them.
Yeah.
So I can see that. Yeah.
But this scene coming up, it was immediately where I was totally at ease and it wasn't really in a horror.
One more thing, sister. You asked if there was a flashback.
Yes.
Scene. There was, and the one that was shown.
That I mentioned in the beginning.
Yeah, this is the one where her husband punches her, right? After they're trying to scare each other, that scary talk that like they're trying to scare each other almost, like intimidate one another, and then he punches her.
No, that's the third one. The second one, which is after the field, is her seeing his impaled body at the bottom of the fence.
Oh, you're right. Yeah.
Yes.
That was that made me really nauseous.
Yeah. Is this where the okay, so for the house scene, is this also where like she's doing business stuff over the phone and
Yeah.
Okay. So
that's when her friend pointed out the guy in the photo.
Yeah.
Something. Yeah.
Mhm. They're going over that. Yeah. I guess now that kind of ruins my little thing, my little segue.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
What I was at a... No, I'm joking. But yeah, I was really disturbed by that body impaled on the fence, and then all this scene really put me at ease because I was like really, I laughed at this next scene just because of how, because there was really no music, it was funny to me. I don't, because if the music had been playing, I would have been really tense. But instead, since there wasn't anything, I could kind of just view the scene like normal, without any sort of degree of.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, just seeing the naked guy just wandering around in the background was really funny to me.
Oh yeah, because this is where he shows up and starts snooping up around her house.
Yeah, and just following her around in the window and just like pushing himself against it. Yeah. She doesn't see him.
Friend of a tour for her phone, and the guy's just in the background.
Well, because I was just waiting for her to see him.
Yeah.
And it wasn't happening, and it was like making me more and more uncomfortable in the way of like I needed to laugh because that was the only way I could like comfort myself.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah. It was a comfort laugh.
It was an uncomfortable laugh because I laugh at things that are uncomfortable sometimes. But and just because it looked kind of silly. But I'm sure I would not want that to actually happen to me in real life. I would not find it funny in real life. But
no.
Yeah, and so then obviously, and then he tries to break in when she sees him. Tries to like get through the mailbox
on the door, and she calls the police.
And they put a jacket over him so he can't see his nudity.
Well, before the police arrive, this is when they do the James hitting her flashback.
And they really just littered these throughout. That was really close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He punches. Does he punch her, or does he like open hand her or something?
I think it was open hand.
Yeah.
Because there was like some serious.
She got blood from it. Yeah. But I think it was open hand.
Like that. It makes a big difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One could be a bruise and one could be a broken nose, I guess.
I mean, if I had to, I would rather take the open hand, but both would be bad.
I'll take
there's no winning here.
Yeah. So yeah, and then she as anybody would, tells him to get the hell out and leave, right? Or is that later?
I think
I
that's.
don't remember if that's. Part
I
of it,
don't
but-
think that's this scene, but
Yeah, that might be the later one.
Ah, well.
as we get our full context, this is
not doing. Yeah.
Yeah, this one was more like a setup for that almost. Yeah. Like it,
Yeah,
it
all I
was.
wrote was James hits her, so I don't.
I think that's where this. I think that's pretty much where the scene ends. Is she gets knocked to the ground. The flashback ends, and then we cut to her being interviewed by the police. I think.
And it's the only other woman in the entire movie. The woman police officer.
Why?
Why?
What's the significance? What's their significance?
And why
I don't
doesn't
know.
she look like Jeff?
I don't
That
know.
would look disturbing.
Yeah, me and Crimson were trying to figure, trying to figure it out, and we just couldn't. We without like there being probably some like really leapfroggy meaning, we couldn't think of anything.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember
because if they were going like the men are bad route, then the other police officer wouldn't have been helpful. But he was in that scene.
Yeah, they were both like.
So it wasn't like it wasn't like the woman was helpful and the guy wasn't. They were both doing their job.
I was
I
trying.
don't know what could have been dropped.
I don't know because I think like the woman police officer definitely seemed more
she was more compassionate, I think.
More compassionate about it, but that's like the only thing. Like they were both. I thought she also kind of like was kind of pushing it off a little bit. I mean, in the way of like, oh, he's just a drunk guy or a crazy guy or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Don't worry, not a threat or something.
Yeah, she was doing that as well. I don't know what they were trying to tell us with that.
I'm trying to remember the context of the conversation because I agree that she was more sympathetic, or more, if not sympathetic, she was empathetic. I'm trying to. I don't remember the exact details of their conversation because
Yeah, it was a very small scene.
Yeah.
It was not a.
Do you have any thoughts on it, Springs?
Yeah.
I'm trying to. Is this the scene after hitting?
Yeah,
or during hitting?
Yeah, when the cops are talking
interviewing,
and arresting the naked guy.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, the cop interview after the guy like is at her house and everything, and watching her.
Not really. She asks her kind of standard questions.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's nothing out of the ordinary. She just. It just seems kind of normal because she's not freaking out over the questions being asked like the priest later.
Yeah.
But it's also not her reaction is just mostly from this situation of what has occurred, not of anything. Like she's not. I don't think she even notices or points out how they all look alike.
No.
I guess this female cop talking to her is, I guess, A, to kind of hide that up, and B, a comfort. But it doesn't. It's one of those things that's not brought up of like, why is this one lady, just in the mix of all this, or if she's even from this town, because this is the one and only time she's ever shown. She's not like at the pub later. She's not walking around the village.
So, are you saying you think she was there to prevent the reveal that they're all the same?
I think there's one aspect to it. Yes.
Yeah, I that did delay my initial reaction that they were the same. Yeah.
Yeah, her partner she came with is very briefly shown handcuffing him, the naked guy, out in the lawn, and that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that could be at least an aspect.
I mean, I feel like probably I could, without any other sort of, I guess, alternatives, I could surrender to the fact that it's probably just a little bit of a
bit of bait and switch. Yeah.
Bait and switch. Red herring, perhaps.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think all these men characters shown all have these intentions, depending on what they are. Like the priest is like very wants to know about her sexual experience. The kid just wants to play a game. Jeffrey wants to make sure she's comfortable. Like they all have these intentions for her, but this other female cop, nothing. Is very just person to person
doing
talk.
the job.
Yeah.
Yep. Going about her business.
Yeah. Would you think that would maybe illustrate to the tropes of men having ulterior motives, not necessarily of the
maybe.
Like, not necessarily not that, like Victor, who's like a priest or whatever, not all priests are, like that, but, just the idea of that
all of the Catholic ones
would be like the specific vices or the specific issues that would arise, with men in general, or, the archetypes of men, I guess.
For how this movie is portraying it, I'd say yeah. Or more so in the yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm leaning towards the yes.
Then there's the guys at the bar though. Like they didn't really have anything.
I think that was
didn't have anything.
I think that was legitimate. The bartending scene is legitimately there to serve the purpose of, hey, we had to let him out, and the other one is also for those who haven't noticed yet the repeating faces. This should be confirming it.
Yeah, and by letting out the naked guy.
Yeah.
The naked guy.
Yeah,
there's no name for him, so we're just calling him naked.
The symbology.
I just have him labeled as nature in my notes because I have no idea what else to call him.
Okay.
Yeah. I think the last scene we have at the house is pretty much them. Her friend encouraging her to stay, like she's hyping the vacation up again, like this is your vacation kind of thing.
Yeah, don't let that guy ruin your experience. You need to heal.
Don't let that guy ruin your experience.
Yeah.
You need to heal. Then she goes to the church or something, right?
Yes.
Yeah, she goes, which is one of the oldest parishes or something in the village, or one of the something like that.
Yeah.
And then just breaks down crying.
Oh yeah, does she cry? Oof, man. Oh.
Yeah. Let me see that podium that we mentioned earlier.
Yeah. Do you want to describe what's on that podium, or?
I'll describe what's on the front.
Okay,
appears to be a man with a leaf face. That's how I viewed it as.
Yeah.
And then there's the backside that Harper couldn't see, but the audience did.
Yeah, but the audience sure did, which is of a woman with a wide open vagina, putting something up there, right, or spreading it, or
she's spreading it.
Spreading it wide open on the opposite side. Yeah.
Did anyone have thoughts when that was shown?
With the stonework and the time lapse of shadowing to go over it, I never really got a good understanding of what I was looking at etched in the stone. I thought the boobs were actually two eyeballs, so I didn't fully understand what I was looking at.
I thought something.
Yeah,
I thought the same thing at first until it kind of. Once the shadow play was kind of done, I thought I saw the eyes as well before it kind of panned out for us to see. Is this the one with all the This is also the one with all the faces on it, though, right? Or is that a different one?
No, it's all the difference.
Okay.
No, this one's just the two-sided, and it's got
Okay.
Yeah, it's got They only show two. Well, they only show two, but it's I mean, it just fed into sort of my little. I was like, oh yeah, the whole pagan, fertility based thing. Which I will say, this was the part because after Sprinks watched it because he saw it first with his mom, I might add.
Yeah.
Probably not the best idea, but you never know.
This was on our list of things we said good
I will say,
and I said okay.
The reason behind you watching it with your mom, I can completely understand. But I think probably not going to do that one.
Yeah. No, I
came
out of it going, we probably don't need to see that again.
Yeah.
So.
But so Sprinks was trying to tell us, warn us without spoiling And I thought, I kept thinking, this is like my apprehension. Especially once I saw that podium, I was like, oh, this is gonna be rape, and that's I don't want to see that.
Yeah, that was my thought process as well with the Sprinks' warning. I was like, oh, yep, that's a rape. I don't know what else would discuss Sprinks. He's the gore guy, so it can't be anything gory.
And then this is where we get our full flashback, right?
Yeah, this is the
Apex flashback, or the last part of it.
Yeah, after that's when she screams and cries. Yeah.
Is that before or after the priest walks in the background, looks at her, and then just walks away?
I think that's after that. I think it's the priest walking first. Right?
I have it in my notes where she had her flashback, breaks down and crying after the flashback is done, and that's when the priest walks in and then leaves.
Yeah, he's very uncomfortable with the whole thing.
Yeah. Oh, I assumed that he was just leaving her to grieve at first.
Yeah.
At first, yeah.
He was stewing a plan.
He was concocting a nasty scheme. And then I think she leaves. Or do you want to talk about the flashback at all? Or we kind of touched on it a bit. I don't know if we want to just talk about the whole thing now.
We could probably.
Is this the divorce talk?
Yeah.
This is the divorce talk, and this is. I think this is the one where she's chasing him away as well, right?
Yeah.
Like this one written in my notes.
Yeah,
so,
this is like in my notes. It's just like this is after she's yelling at him after he hit her, and
Understandably.
and obviously, and she sort of chases him out of the house, which is also very understandable, and yeah, and this is where I think this is where we see the sequence of him falling off as well. Like we don't see how he fell off.
Yeah,
but did he jump or did he slip?
Yeah.
He slipped while he was looking for a better place to jump.
Did it look like he was trying to get back in to that, like go to that balcony?
No, they don't. I think they strategically don't show it.
Yeah.
The only thing they show in it is that the way he was positioned is he's looking towards her, like looking towards the building. He's not facing away.
Yeah, like
which to me makes it think he didn't jump. He was either trying to climb down and slipped, or he was.
It's very much from her perspective, from Harper's perspective. So they're very ambiguous of whether it's her fault or not, or whether it's his fault or like his choice. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Agree. Which I think is probably the best way to go about. I guess something of this nature is to keep it as open-sided as possible. But so then she leaves and comes across a little boy with a very disturbing
the yellowed hair mask.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like something straight out of Black Mirror.
Yep, I didn't go to Black Mirror this. I actually went to Strangely Hot Fuzz, and I don't just because of all the masks in that movie.
Yeah,
I'm like,
a little bit of Hot Fuzz and a little bit of Black Mirror and a little bit of We Happy Few probably.
Yeah.
In there.
Yeah.
And yeah, he says some really bad words.
Well, he was trying to be nice at first, and then
he was, but then he
hide and seek.
Yeah. But she refused to play with him, and then he turned up the vulgarity in the language.
Fucking bitch. Or no, stupid bitch. Yeah, it was
stupid.
Stupid bitch. And the vicar shushes him away,
Yeah, the priest comes around.
Yeah.
And they have a little discussion.
I kind of like the lull, I guess, into his character is that he admits that he saw her grieving and left her alone to let her grieve.
Yeah,
that was a bit of a lull for me. I'm like, okay, I don't outright hate you yet. So
this scene is probably the worst looking scene of the whole movie for me.
Yeah, it's not great. Yeah,
because they played with depth of field a lot in this movie, and they cranked it to 11 on here, where it looks almost like a green screen, even though I don't think it was.
Yeah.
The background was so blurry and looked very weird.
Yeah, compared to everything else where everything is so lushly detailed.
Yeah, it looked weird with the very incredibly blurry background and the crisp priest and Harper.
Yeah, I think we discussed it a little bit, and we're like, it's probably like the last thing they had to film or something, and it was rushed because it's just not on par with all the rest of the cinematography in this.
And though they still managed to inject some symbolism in it, there's a knockdown cross.
Yeah, it's a good amount.
Yeah.
But yeah, they have a what appears to be a fairly philosophical and
It certainly starts out that way. Yeah.
And she reveals all this I guess maybe all the secrets she's been kind of keeping into herself like this whole time, or her
knowledge from the apple tree, as you can.
Yeah.
What does he say about it, Crimson?
Oh, once they sit on the bench.
Yeah, once they sit on the bench, and she kind of lets out. Oh yeah, he said if I ever left him, he would commit suicide, and I threw him out, and then he died. And
well, I don't remember any particular quotes. It was just him like blaming her, trying to make her feel guilt.
Oh, okay. So yeah, it was like she told him that he hit her, and then the priest asked, "Well, did you give him a chance to apologize before you threw him out?"
Yeah.
Oh god.
That was pretty funny.
Yeah,
I didn't laugh out loud or anything.
No,
it was funny.
I do like that the priest explains kind of her guilt back to her a lot more calmly, because obviously she's not calm right now. She's very emotional.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Obviously, yeah. It is a very interesting.
I think my favorite
dynamic.
quote does come out of this scene is, "Do you prefer things to be uncomfortable or true?" But obviously the scene starts to turn a little bit after that.
Yeah, because he puts his hand on her thigh.
Yeah.
And just leaves it there.
Yeah.
Sprinks, do you remember any more of this?
It's a sign of comfort.
Sign of comfort.
It's sign of comfort.
I was okay with it at first because, like, okay, I was initially uncomfortable, and then it kind of went a little more into the philosophical end of the conversation, and then it started to get uncomfortable again. So, like, there was a pendulum swing there.
That has two meanings.
The pendulum swing. Yeah. Comes back later.
Yeah.
And then she gets up in a huff, right? Or
she gets mad, storms off.
Yeah. After.
And then what does he do after?
Well, this is after he accuses her of, like, it's saying like
her fault, yeah.
Yeah, that's when she storms off in a huff, because I mean, I would too.
Yeah.
Yeah, he brings out chapstick, right? And that was a weird thing.
He brings out chapstick, and then he touches the spot where she was sitting and smells it.
Yeah. Resting her hand where she was. I'm like, oh, you're just a Catholic. Okay, all right. I thought you were a character first, but no, you're just Catholic. That sucks.
I mean, that's a character.
Yeah.
I don't remember what happens exactly after. I think there's a transition with the dead deer. Right?
Yeah, we have a dead deer and God statue visuals, and I thought this sequence was very interesting, like symbolically. I don't like the dead deer, like missing an eye when you see a dandelion seed fly into it, and then the decomposed deer has like things growing out of it and stuff like that.
Yeah, they're definitely like nature parallels.
Yeah, and this is
the deer.
We get a God statue visual as well, I think, in here as well. So,
God. It was really. I mean, other than like the visual aspect of it, I don't know if there's much to Anybody have anything?
Some connection to nature. I don't know what they're implying. Just like we're all one with nature. Once we die, I don't know. It's not really relevant.
Yeah, I thought it was an indication of a time lapse to show like a time jump, but it didn't. It could have.
Yeah.
We don't know if this is like the following day, what happens after the fact, but it was really it. Yeah, it was just a sign of nature for transition.
Yeah, I think I read it as a time lapse at first, as far as like the story itself, but I think it was more to there was some. I think it was more just for symbolism, with the added bonus that you could like time lapse as to show that okay, well we're going into the nighttime or whatever.
Yeah, so we decompose the deer, and then we have one more visual before we kind of open up into the pub. Is we have the melody playing that she was singing into the tunnel. We have that playing while the naked man sticking a leaf in his head and
he cutting himself, putting a leaf in it. I have. I don't think I've ever seen that visual before.
No, it's very unique. Yeah. I'll give it that.
Yeah, I don't. I was like, I don't think I've ever seen somebody do that. I've seen pins sticking into somebody's head, but never a leaf.
Yeah.
So. It reminds me of that teleporter episode in Enterprise, where there was a windstorm, and they teleported out someone, and they were just filled with leaves.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Reminds me visually, but it's not so good because he didn't cut himself to put leaves in him.
Yeah, I thought this is where I got more solidified. Like I think that the naked man is supposed to represent nature, or like the very very caveman aspect of man, which were the two I got.
Probably more specifically like a man's relationship with nature and some or like the man's place maybe I didn't like I said I didn't get those two. I got the other two that I mentioned. So like I said, very very abstract. No it's I don't know. I would if I had to choose between, I think there's a specific thing or an abstract thing here. I think it's probably going to be more abstract.
I didn't really read much into it. No, I'm sure there's something there.
Yeah,
the only thing I keep coming back to is just, and especially because they represent, I guess, quote unquote, the nature as in the naked man.
Mm-hmm.
It is from like this male sort of fertility aspect of some, or like for the virile, or something like that.
Yeah,
it's interesting that they would choose like a man, or a not a. I think I generally, and this is this is just my own personal opinion. It's not how it actually is, but I always view nature more as feminine than So when but there's there's like,
it comes from the saying of Mother Nature, right? That's what really defines it as like giving it a feminine feminine moniker.
Yeah, that it's subjective. I mean, there's no like one answer. So it was interesting to me that they had him more as a male, or I guess at nature, and maybe even just the nature spirit as a male.
Yeah,
that was interesting. Is he like a box? I can't remember. It's a weird room.
I like a crypt of some kind without.
It looked like it was a crypt. At first, I actually thought it was like a broken off branch in the tunnel. So like that this was him literally hearing her sing. But the crypt aspect makes a little more sense.
I mean, we did just come off a cemetery. At the church, so maybe he was there. Who knows?
Maybe that's where the cops thrown him.
They're like, I'll just leave him out there. Thanks.
I mean, that could help. Maybe that's saying like he was never held in prison. Like as soon as they put him in the police car and drove away, they just let him out. Maybe
because of how everything is playing out, and that kind of takes us into the pub scene.
Yeah, she goes down for a pint.
Yeah. This for me was the confirmation that all the actors were the same, but I was pretty sure once I saw the priest and then the kid. I was pretty sure, and this was just made a certainty.
Yeah, with the kid, I'm like, there's something going on here. And then the bar was confirmation for me as well.
The bar.
The bar.
See Jeff. Good old Jeff.
Good old Jeff, nice guy, concerned for Harper once he found out about the naked guy in the yard.
Yeah.
How sweet of him.
Hit on her very, very politely, but
Who was the cop talking to? I don't remember. He was talking to someone.
I think he was just talking to the bartender or something.
Yeah, I think he was just talking to the bartender. Yeah.
Just ask him like, hey, can you give me this or that or whatever? Just had to let a prisoner go or something or something like that. It was offhanded. I know it wasn't like
that's what I'm trying to think of who he talked to, because Harper didn't ask. It was just she overheard it.
I think it was probably the bartender, because I don't remember anyone else at the bar. It was Jeffrey, the cop, and Harper.
No, they showed tables of.
There were I think there was.
No. There was. I meant the bar stand.
Conversation.
There was another person sitting at the bar. Like, so Harper was in between Jeff and another person, but the other person was.
I think Jeff might have brought it up because he was like, the guy who was scrumping my apples or something. He brought up scrumping again.
Yeah.
Maybe that. I know he talked to him after it came up that he was like had to let him go or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe Harper was talking about it to Jeff, and then maybe the cop overheard Jeff and said it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Or commented on it.
Either way, even if we don't remember it, it made sense. Yep.
By the way, Harper finds out the guy got released.
Yes.
She's not happy about it.
No, she gets upset.
Yeah, but the cop makes it pretty clear, like, he didn't really do anything bad.
Yeah, they don't have any reason to hold him.
I mean, it was public indecency, but
Yeah,
they had no ID on him.
He didn't try to hurt her or anything. He didn't make any physical contact. So
no.
Yeah. Maybe we did skip a day. So like they did hold on to him for 24 hours, but then
probably.
Maybe you're right, Springston. Maybe that transition is to show that we did do a time skip, like of a day, or at least.
Well, we're also assuming that these people are real.
Yes, we are.
We haven't talked about what these people are yet.
We'll get to that.
Yeah. Is that pretty much it from the bar?
I think so. And then she goes home.
Well, and then she gets scared because she can hear.
Yeah.
She walks home, and we find out naked guy's following her again.
And she almost
goes back to the dandelion part.
No.
Not quite.
No.
She almost goes back to the pub, but then she's like, "No, I'm just gonna go back to the house."
Tough it out.
We know the naked man is near the church at this point.
Yes. Behind a tree.
Yeah, she starts just like booking it.
Just straight up
down this cobblestone path.
Just Booker doing it.
Booker doing it. And this is probably where like the most horror of this,
Yeah,
I think it's pretty chaotic.
Yeah. a lot happens in these next few scenes.
We know. I remember her trying. My notes say I just have axe, one word, as she gets home.
Yep, I have that written down too.
Yeah, I assume. Yeah, it shows axe.
Keeps popping up, yeah.
And then I know she tries to contact her friend, but
and to get her to come over, yeah.
Yeah, and it kept disconnecting.
Yeah,
and then
that's when that face pops up again.
Yeah, this is where I noticed the face more, because I thought I thought it was me the first time. Like, okay, there was something there, and then this one was the confirmation. I'm like, okay, something is there.
So, the friend tries to get directions to come visit, and Harper texts her the address. But then Simon, the hide and seek kid, texts back saying, "Don't worry, I already know where you are.
You stupid bitch."
Yeah, something along those lines.
Yeah. Then I don't remember what happens next.
The power goes out, right, or something like that, or
yeah,
is that when she sees the cop in the yard?
Power goes out, and she goes out to check the breakers. I think is what happens.
Yeah, and then here's like a crash in the kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
And
Well, yeah, the window breaks. She grabs a knife.
She grabs a knife, yeah.
Thinking that the cop is breaking in, I think.
Yeah, or something like there's definitely
and then it's the barman, right?
Was it the barman?
Okay, so like so let me list it down.
Scene, yeah.
Okay,
it all
so
kind of blends together.
Okay, so there is a flash where the cop is standing outside, and he's not talking. Disappeared when the lights turn off, and this is where it shows the I think all the apples on the ground, and then it shows barman rushing the door, ignoring her questions.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I thought that was later. Okay, yeah, that would add up then.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then the window crashes. She's got the knife. She's terrified, and then I think Jeff comes in.
Enters.
Yes.
Jeff, yeah. And he
finds out it's just a bird.
It's just a bird.
And everything's okay.
Yeah. Was it the barman that kind of forced her back into the kitchen? Because I don't remember if there was something specific that came into the kitchen after her. If it was naked guy, or...
No, the guy charged. She closed the door on him.
Yeah.
And broke the window in the kitchen.
Okay.
We didn't see anyone in the house at that point.
Okay.
Than Jeff coming in.
Because she heard her scream. Jeff is such a sweet man. For now.
Sweet man. And he goes out and
investigates.
And he says, "My father always told me you'll never be a military man," or something like that.
Yeah, precisely the qualities of a failed military man, I think is...
And he was like, yeah, you have precisely the qualities of a failed military man. And he's like, I don't know what he meant by that, but I hope to prove him wrong.
And, that was kind of endearing,
Yeah.
A little bit.
So Jeff looks around. The lights start flickering.
Jeffrey yells.
Jeff disappears.
Yeah, Jeffrey yells.
Oh,
yeah. Lights go off after Jeffrey yells. So I think he's shouting, daring something to come and get them, pretty much. He's gonna go out and patrol the property, and as he shouts, the lights all turn off, and then I think the naked man takes his place.
This is the scene Sprinksy wanted to talk about. Here you go.
Well, not necessarily talk about, just the naked man appears again in the front. Well, the entrance of the house has this tall hedge kind of round, so it's hard to see the front driveway or the lawn to the left or right, and the trees to the left.
Layout. Yeah, it's got a weird layout.
But yeah, there's a little opening in the hedge on the right, which is where the naked man comes in. And he has more cuts and leaves on his face.
Yeah, he looks more bloodied up, pretty much.
Yeah, and Harper doesn't run, just slowly backs up and then just stands still.
Freaking hypnotized.
Yeah, and then he blows dandelions at her out of the palm of his hand, which makes her go
slow motion.
Yeah, and then
I trance drug state.
Yeah, I feel like I got the idea of I heard sound audio effects of a splash, getting hit with water,
like a money shot.
Yeah, and then I got this is also where she's drowning in a tub, right? Is this
that was earlier?
That was earlier.
I don't remember that.
I think that's later.
Okay.
Later, okay.
Earlier now.
I got the one of the symbolisms I got from this is the idea is that God is watching or judging. The idea that the God is just kind of watching and judging her as this is going on. I didn't really get much more.
Well, if this is connected to not only here in water, but if it is followed by the bathtub, it could be baptism.
Yeah, maybe.
Possibly.
Baptism
When I saw it, I read it more as this, which, spoiler, it didn't end up happening. I thought of it more as this impregnation almost because of the seed and the going inside of her.
Oh, that's an interesting one.
They've also had this thing where they've been showing dandelions throughout film. On her first walk through the forest, it focused on one falling and putting her into focus. And then the deer corpse, and now he's got a whole bundle of them blowing in her face. So, yeah, I agree. There's got to be something to do with seeds. And probably birth, as we find out later.
Yeah. Okay. And it's not the nature man that backs her back inside, right? Because she ends up kind of backing back into the house.
Goes back in. Yeah.
She just turns like after her fucking trip is done. She just kind of turns and walks back into the house.
Yeah. Pretty much.
Does she just close the door, or does someone rush the door? I don't remember.
No, she closes the door.
She just closes the door. And then
his hand just calmly enters through the mail slot.
Yeah, and it's red, so I kind of...
Lots of symbolism here.
Yeah, red hand, covered in blood. I took it to mean like
red
long...
right hand.
Yeah, I took it to mean like long fingers for like the idea of the devil kind of reaching out for her. Or a demon, I guess.
Demon, yeah.
When she was going through when it was trying to reach through the little mail slot.
I saw it as symbolism for birth. I'm a person coming out of a slot, a slit.
I mean, retrospectively, that's probably what it does mean because of everything else. But that was my initial takeaway. So I thought it was supposed to be the devil kind of reaching for her.
Initially, I didn't see any symbolism, but
I didn't necessarily connect them. But by what Ryder's saying, I guess I saw it more in that aspect because to me it looked like it was wanting a handshake or a connection of touch. So like that's like a deal with the devil kind of look.
Yeah, that's kind of where I took it. It's the devil's trying to make a contract or make a connection. So it reaches out and she takes his hand and he grabs onto her tightly and then she just fucking rams a knife through it. Which is, the appropriate response at this point.
Rams a knife up towards the elbow is where she sticks it in.
Yes.
And then I guess the naked man himself pulls his arm out of the slit as the knife is
carving through him
from the slit to cut his whole forearm and then in between his fingers into live long and prosper as it goes out of the slit.
Yeah, it basically his arm is now dangling in said two pieces.
Yeah.
From the elbow.
Nice old bit, yeah.
And is that when the pub guy bursts through and chases her upstairs?
No. Because for some reason she goes in the kitchen and sees Simon, right?
Yeah, he's on the other
side. Yeah. You hurt me.
They talk, and then he's on the other side of the door, and he's like counting for hide and seek.
Yeah, he's got the bird in his hands.
Yeah.
I don't remember what he's talking about with the bird. He's saying something with it.
But it's important to note that the boy also has a carved hand.
That's when we realize that they're all the same person.
Yeah.
Like physically speaking, the same person.
I guess.
Yeah, it's weird. I'll probably be one of the last topics we talk about is just what is Jeff.
What is Jeff?
Yes, so Simon wants to play hide and seek with her, and gives her a head start.
I know where you are. That's a very good job.
She's hiding
behind the door,
the kitchen door, and is in the front entryway hallway as he's counting.
He's like, "You're not making this very hard on me."
Yep.
No, she's just terrified.
Yeah.
And that's when the front door bursts open.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then chases her upstairs to the bathroom.
Yeah. Then she closes the bathroom door, and she still has the knife.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the priest walks in.
The nice priest.
Yeah.
Yeah. Quotes about Agamemnon being dead. And I'm like, it was a nice, like, all right, I guess we're going to Greek lore. It's fine. Just,
Yeah.
It was definitely an odd reference. At this point on my notes, I put "What the fuck are you?" because I don't understand what the and then
we see his hand is split as well.
Yeah, we see his hand is split as well. Is this where he's like he sees her as a swan, or there was something about a swan in this scene?
Something.
Yeah.
Being honest, I don't remember a lot of what he said except the virginity bit.
Yeah, like
he gets really, really filthy.
Yeah.
Really quick.
Yeah, so he questions her about her virginity, what age she lost it, and she talks about he pictures her like knowing all the pleasures of life and how it tempts him.
Yeah, her experience.
Yeah.
And then that's when he puts his split hand over her shoulder.
Yeah.
Over
his shoulder.
He washes it, though. He
Yeah,
washes it. There's a scene where he washes it in the sink.
Oh, yeah. Like the thumb, index, and middle are like fine, but the ring and pinky are like limp. And while he's washing.
It's disgusting.
And
closest to body horror, yeah.
It's like, does he say something like "You're singing to me" as well? I have that written in my notes. I think that's just in his.
Does he say it to like her vagina? Like he like goes down and like, "You're singing to me" as well, or something.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay.
It's not very subtle.
No, it is fucking not.
No.
And then
he gets like she's like just just
like frozen in place.
Fear that he gets her up onto like the counter of the sink.
Like grabs her,
yeah.
In her dress a little
and
bit.
in my mind, starts the podium.
Yeah. And I was just like, oh, please no, don't do this.
Yeah.
It's worse.
And then she stabs him.
And then she fucking stabs him. And I thought this was so my initial interpretation of this was I thought that she was lulling him into relaxing to think that he could get away with it so that she could stab him.
Part of vulnerability.
Yeah.
I don't think she was thinking that clearly.
I
don't.
She was hypnotized like the dandelion bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I agree.
And then she stabs him and goes down the stairs, out the front door. But this is the weird part because she does that. She goes downstairs.
One part runs, one part stays, one strides confident.
And then it goes back to the top of the stairs, but this time she has the knife, but she left the knife in him, which gave me the thought that the priest turned into her. And that was like the priest version because she left the knife in him, so she didn't have it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So this second version of her with the knife coming downstairs I thought was him.
Little did you know this was a multiverse movie.
I didn't know it became a back-to-back thing of there was like two versions of her. I didn't know if one was like in her mind of what she thought happened and one was the real one. That I couldn't really figure out.
Yeah. I didn't.
He was real.
Yeah, like I said, I don't really know which one was real, but I left down my notes where like one part runs out sprinting, one part just one fiction of her just stays, and the other one just kind of strides confidently with the knife.
And then she gets in her car.
I don't remember her having the knife.
Yeah, I don't.
Oh yeah, and then. Yeah, she gets in her car and he leaves. That
version of her that left that house.
Yeah, so like, yeah, and then
the knife never gets brought up again.
Yeah.
So,
and then as she pulls away, I'm like, that was easy. I put in quotes because I thought the movie was going to end there. Like I'm like, for a horror finale, that wasn't as bad as it could have been. And then Jeffrey. Sweet Jeffrey.
Old Jeffrey just walking in the streets.
Run over just.
Yeah, my notes for the scene. As soon as I saw Jeffrey on the scene, I'm like, oh, Jeffrey is the last one. Of fucking course he is.
Poor Jeff.
Yeah.
His character got assassinated right at the end.
She feels bad, so she goes back to check on him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Or she doesn't get. She just stops the car, right?
Yeah.
And checks the like rearview mirror and sees that he gets up.
Yeah. Yeah. And then she asks him if he's okay, and then he proceeds to rip her out of the car and steal it.
Yeah, and drive away.
Yeah.
And then I think we have one of my more favorite.
Screaming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We got one of my more favorite shots of the movie in this part, which was he rips her out and leaves her kind of just looking up at the Milky Way galaxy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know what? That's very pretty. And I'm like, you can see shooting stars as a woman stands alone in the street. And I don't know. It was a very pretty shot for me, but I love space. If you can't fucking tell by my avatar.
Yeah, I wrote that down too. I liked the Starry Night. I didn't really get the symbolism, if there was any.
It's a nice another touch. It's a nice another touch of showing nature.
Yeah, I kind of the symbolism for me here was like Harper stands alone, and like the idea that women kind of are. I guess the idea that I got was I think it's implying that women have to deal with a lot of their problems on their own.
Yeah.
Because society wasn't built to help them per se. That was the kind of on the nose aspect of symbolism that I got. And then obviously the other one is just that she's here alone in all this by herself, and she's dealing with all this by herself. So that was also kind of what I got from that. And then the idea of that the universe kind of swirling around, where everyone is the center of their own universe, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much the symbolism dump I got in that moment. But I took this one more literally because I don't know which one to apply to such an abstract shot, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. This is gonna be a hard one.
Yeah. I'll take suggestions for more.
Yeah.
I got nothing out of it.
Just the space. I just
get
saw it as
the women stand alone thing. I didn't get that from that. But.
I just saw it as another touching aspect of showing another scenery of some sort of nature, because it's usually always just the greenery. It's space is something never really thrown in, so it was a nice connection.
Yeah,
especially because it was taken at night. It was
I did think it did kind of in a good way sort of take you out of the film a little bit, because everything before that had been fairly grounded in some sort of
everything
nature.
was so chaotic right up until this moment where everything just suddenly became super peaceful and quiet again for it's fleeting because Jeffrey's not done, but it was like a nice moment to breathe, I guess.
I agree. So what does Jeffrey do?
She stands up, right?
Yes.
Well, Jeffrey is not Harper, but yeah.
She stands up and just sees two headlights.
Yeah, and
coming right up,
I think we hear the sound of the car before he said the headlights, right?
Probably.
I
think so.
Yeah, and as it turns out, Jeffrey's coming back to run her the fuck over because
Why not? Was he trying to run her over or just push her back to the house?
I got the implication.
I did that both.
I got both. Both is good. I got the running over aspect more because of the fact that he just got run over, so it's like a tit for tat escalation.
Yeah.
They just never showed him trying to kill her throughout this.
I'm sure it's more of the just getting her back to the back to the house. But I mean, if you have a car and you have somebody on foot, I mean.
Yeah, I mean, I do have a question mark here.
Whether you intend to or not, you're probably going to kill somebody.
Yeah, I do have a question mark here, like, because I wasn't actually sure if he was trying to run her over, and I kind of wanted to bring that up to you guys. Like I said,
I don't think so.
yeah, he hasn't been shown to try to hurt her. This was the one scene where I could be convinced he is, just purely because she ran him over first.
Yeah, because if you guys think he's trying to run over because she ran him over, she freaking cut open his arm, and he didn't try to retaliate.
Not his.
Yeah, but this is Jeffrey.
Jeff's hand was split open too.
Sweet Jeffrey.
I think he was with the intent of hitting her because of the speed he was driving.
Yeah, I mean, either way, I guess, either if it was to, you know, I mean, he didn't hit her, but, I mean, it's kind of like the same, like, like, let's just say I was driving, like, really fast and you were on foot somewhere or whatever, you know, I'm not trying to hit you, but if I hit you, you know what I mean?
He wasn't being careful, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So he pushes her back to the house, and he rams the lamppost out there. Like there's a stone kind of.
Yeah.
It's like it's supposed to be like for like they have them in front of like storefronts and stuff now. The little like cement
blockers.
Yeah. You can't drive. You can't just drive straight into it.
You can't just just fair enough. Want to prevent collateral damage.
He slammed into that with no worries in the world.
Nope.
Not apply the brakes at all.
Yeah, and then she kind of runs back into the yard. She gets hurt by something, right? Because I remember her. Maybe not. I kind of remembered her. No, you're right. So. I don't think she got hurt. She just kind of stumbles, falls over, and looks back.
I mean, she did get. She has gotten a little roughed up.
Yeah, she got thrown out of a car onto concrete.
So. Yeah. I was just remembering how this happened because I think she trips over one of the apples or stumbles over one of the apples and.
Ironic.
Ironic, and then the headlights kind of show a silhouette of the naked man kind of walking into the frame to focus.
Should we let Sprinks describe what's about to happen?
Yeah,
come on, Sprinks. This is your favorite
I'll describe him to a point. So the naked man is silhouetted by the crashed car lights.
And he's having a time. He's having a time getting back over.
And a broken leg. I think either Jeffrey's vanished or knocked out of the car. And this time his face is like fully leaf.
Yeah,
I don't know how to call it.
He's fully engulfed in nature for sure in this one.
Yeah, and to me he looked like a Korok from Breath of the Wild. Just that 5-pointed star leaf.
It's funny, I went to Witcher for mine.
I went nowhere.
Good job, Crimson.
Yep.
And he takes 1 or 2 steps before it's shown, and it goes between him and Harper's just kind of staring at him in horror. And he takes like 1 or 2 steps before he kind of stops, and you see that his stomach is expanding.
He's got a massive belly pimple.
Yeah, and he gets.
That's a good way to put it.
It's important to know that as well that his limbs are also broken the same way her husband was.
Yeah, his left ankle snapped, and his
ripped hand.
Yeah, the ripped hand. And I think he takes one. He goes down on one knee, and then he falls on his butt and leans over backwards.
Oh, yeah, this was like a rough
as the stomach is expanding, and then with the music, it's not necessarily he is screaming, or more just like one long yell that's drowned out by the music because it's not the whole time, as he is giving birth, or I'll say it is giving birth because it's coming out of a vagina. Is giving birth.
His male spot.
His male spot just splits apart and becomes.
I'll say this creature is giving birth.
Whoa!
And it falls over, and I think the stomach is still shown. The stomach doesn't disappear,
No.
and the stomach is still up as it falls
doesn't
over.
just go back. Yeah.
I presume it's dead, or it could have knocked itself out. One of the two. And what it gave birth to is a full size. It's not a baby, but it's a full sized. I believe Simon. It's the kid.
Yeah.
Or a look of the kid.
Simon's the second one.
Yeah.
I think this is This is Jeff or.
Is this the priest first?
No, it's.
Priest was third.
Okay, it wasn't Jeff.
It wasn't
I don't think
Jeff.
Jeff is ever.
No, Jeff is not shown, but.
I think it's Simon, Priest, and then I don't know who the first one was.
More, and then the last one. It gives birth 4 times. And by it, I mean like each next one gives birth.
Yeah, I realized halfway through that it was giving birth to all the ones she'd, I'm gonna put this in quotes, killed or dealt with.
Yeah.
But the first 2 give birth the same, and then the third one is
the priest,
coming
right?
out of its back.
Oh yeah.
The back, yeah.
I think, yeah, it's giving birth out of its back, even though they're all getting the stomach. The third one's coming out of its back, and then the fourth one is coming out of its mouth.
Yes.
That was the one that disturbed you the most, right?
I think the music, just visually looking at all of them, was just disturbing. All of them.
Yeah. Yeah, I have it in my notes of the.
Similar, yeah.
I think the priest was the third one, and then the priest is the one that gives birth out of his back, and then
just an unidentifiable one because now it's in the hallway. And the
Yeah.
shadowing is kind of dark.
Yeah, and then
Could have been Jeff. I guess.
I thought the last one was Jeffrey. Yeah, or like the one after the priest was Jeffrey, and then
It could be. I'm not sure.
Possible.
Yeah, and then Harper goes back to get the axe, I think.
Yes.
Um,
and paying off the axe, right?
Yeah, finally.
Yeah.
and then the guy that comes out of Jeffrey gets a crooked leg, and that's kind of what was a cue for me of who was going to be. And the last one is her husband.
It's James.
James.
Isn't really the only showing of birth is the feet, and then he just walks through the door.
Honestly, the part that disgusted me most about this was just walking on a broken foot. That was what got me in this.
Yeah, and then he
Not
sits
so much
he sits down blooded on a white couch, and I was so pissed off. But
Yeah, your inner self was like, gotta put a cover on that.
Yeah,
If he was really there.
if he was really there.
Yeah. So he sits down, and Harper just sits down next to him.
Yeah, and they have a little conversation, which I
don't remember it.
Look at me, Harper. So I died.
This is what you did to me, or something.
Yeah.
This is what you did. Yeah.
And then she asks,
I know,
like,
what do you want?
Yeah.
What do you want from me? And he just says, I want your love.
And she looks away, and she's like,
looks at the axe.
Holding the axe.
Yeah.
And then cuts to black, and that's the end.
No.
Not quite.
No, it's not.
No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Okay, yes, you kidding. Good one.
Oh, God, oh man, we got us.
Yeah, I honestly forgot about the last scene.
And the 3 hours later, the friend shows up.
Yeah, morning is here. The friend has arrived,
and she is noticeably pregnant.
She is preggers.
Yeah.
And the car is
Did not expect that one.
crashed out front, but Jeffrey's not in it.
And there's
It's
a
like
blood
trail of
trail.
blood
leading
trail,
into the house.
Mm-hmm. And
And
yeah,
we
like,
just
they take the care to
pan
show. Yeah.
Yeah, they show the
Harper,
blood.
Yeah, they show
And
the
they
blood.
pan to Harper in like the garden area.
Garden steps, yeah.
And, was she holding a dynamite? She was holding some plant.
I think she was like smoking
And,
or something, yeah.
What was she smoking?
No.
I don't know.
No, she was.
It's something in her hands.
Yeah,
And
but she
she smiled. And
she's covered in blood,
Yeah.
splattered with blood, yeah.
and then the credits roll, and we get like the sound of a beach.
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
I didn't. You know what
That's
to take
peace.
from that.
That's peace.
Yeah,
She's at peace.
Yeah, the idea that she's at peace now.
Now it's over.
It's over.
How do you guys read into that? That that interaction. I mean, obviously we abridged it a lot in this that ending because we it's been a while since we've seen this, and I think we all only watched. But how did you guys read the ending of
It's a rebirth thing stuff, and Jane showing up.
Yeah. How what do you think that? In the basic terms, what do you think that?
I would have said it. I would have said it was all in her head, but it points her friend noticing the blood marks and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, my concept of what literally happened is that the police don't know that her husband tried to commit suicide, and so what she did is she brought the body of him with her. That was my interpretation of what as a possible feasibility of what literally could happen.
Okay.
So like so she when she arrived, she crashed her car and then dragged her husband's body onto the couch and is just left there for her to deal with or take revenge on. So, in my head, she still took an axe to it and stuff like that. As a literal interpretation of what happened. I don't think that's what the movie's going for, but
I kind of like that.
Yeah.
And you're assuming all the Jeffs are in her head.
yes,
Did she actually go to those places?
I do
Just
think
living in the house.
I do think she
thinking
actually
of-
went to the pub. I do actually think she went to the church and had her cry. But I do think the Jeffs are all in her head. If I'm gonna ignore all the abstract, what literally happened is I think she brought the body with her because she doesn't know what to do. Like she panicked and ended up bringing it with her, and with all the traumatizing memories, their last moments together, part of her getting over it was she took an axe to the body to kind of get her emotional satisfaction / resolution out of it. And if it is a real body that she brought, it would explain all the blood stains and the physicality of some of the things that had happened and why she's covered in blood at the end.
So, just so are you saying that she brought the body of her husband or
yes,
the body
of her husband?
Okay. Like right after she found him and everything.
Yeah, my idea is
and not to cut you off. I would. That does make sense for the most part. I do like that.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, since her friend knew that he was dead, wouldn't that kind of
Yes, but her friend doesn't know to the extent. Her friend, she didn't give her friend all the details. It's just she told him that she's dead and she's going to go mourn him pretty much, and so she knows nothing else.
All right. Okay.
That's like I said. That's for me. That's what I can interpret as something very literal that could happen, that would explain a lot of the abstractness of what we see. But that's just my writer That's just the writer in me trying to justify it, or thinking of a way I would make it more realistic, because none of that's in the script. That was just a literal interpretation. With the naked man,
well, there was no naked man if it was in her head.
I think she was calling for a disturbance. The reason I read that scene a little differently is that there was no disturbance, so remove the background of the naked man getting arrested and handcuffed, so there's nothing there. It's just her and the woman police officer talking. Because the standard questions, I think, could be implied where they're asking her because her husband's missing, as an idea. Like I said, I took that was my literal interpretation of what could have happened, abstractly and symbolically. I thought the ending was the death and rebirth of the nature of men, sort of, and the idea of the lengths we will go to get a woman's love or someone's love. Um, yeah, that's what I got.
I guess I'll take a crack at it, even though I don't really understand it myself.
Yeah.
I guess it could be read that no man, no matter how he is born, is the same. They all act the same.
We all have a beast inside of us, that sort of thing.
Yeah, we all have an interior motive, as Sinister brought up, I think. Was that earlier? Or was that later? One of you brought that up, that men have ulterior motives. Could have been seen in the scene. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's, I guess, something that could be read. You could be a boy, priest, whatever, but at the end, we all think the same. I guess that could be the rebirth thing. Jeff, the Jeff guys, I have no idea. I don't think they're real. But as much as I like Ryder's explanation, I don't think that's what their intention was.
Oh no, like
I
said, I don't think it's
explain away the blood, other than she got into an accident and that's her own blood. But I think that's kind of dumb if that's the case. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not artsy enough to understand the symbolism.
Like I said, I don't think that's what they intend for. What I said is definitely what they don't intend. That would just be my literal justification for everything, and that way everything could have happened. It's just in her head and how she sees everything.
Yeah, because the Jeffs, maybe she puts his face on real people, potentially. Because there had to have been a landlord or whatever, an owner of that place.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't just. I guess she could have broken in and just stayed there if she's just broke and went crazy. But her friend, well, she could have lied to her friend. I have no idea. Sinister Sphinx, you take it away. I can't contribute anymore with this.
Yeah. This was a hard one for Crimson. Not gonna lie. It doesn't do well with these abstract. These abstract.
Structured story.
I guess calling back to some of the earliest stuff with the Adam and Eve, there's definitely a very biblical tone and imagery or symbolism.
Definitely a facet of it for sure.
And so the whole thing, and then with technically, as far as the Bible's concerned, the original sin was Eve, having, or the snake convincing Eve to, then convince Adam to eat the apple, So technically, as far as the Bible, all the sins of the world, are women, are caused by women. The original sin is, women. And so, and then you have this whole thing with James, threatening to, kill himself, and everything, and all this other stuff to, have Harper not divorce him and, all this other stuff. And so by her, she in her own way, in I guess the story of this, place, her original sin, or at least as far as like the I'm just gonna say like the creatures or whatever of or the men of men are concerned, her original sin is that she killed her husband, even though technically she didn't. It was his doing. And so there's this kind of this. And all of like these men are all. Jeffrey's probably the most redeeming of all of them, but they all kind of want something from her, but it's all in different forms and in different sort of aggressiveness going for them, but it's still the same thing in that and then of course with the after you were talking a little bit, I kind of pieced together a little thing of the men giving birth to other men. It's almost like this men creating more and more same sort of wants and needs, or and having it not be about Harper, but have it be about themselves, I guess, in a way. So that all these men are sort of they're different in what they in what they represent, but they all have this need that far outweighs what Harper is in the relation, in whatever relationship they have with him. I guess
capable of giving them.
Yeah.
I guess kind of a little bit on that. And it's gone. Never mind.
All right. But they all have these. I guess this is probably a little bit oversimplified, but just the idea of that if just roll around. If all women innately have no sin of Eve, right? Then you could surmise that in the men in this movie all carry the original sort of misogynistic trait of aggressiveness and their need above all else.
Here's another one, I guess. Kind of. Sorry, I remember my thought. The women, the idea going off the Eden thing, the idea that women, or a woman, giving mankind sin, and the others could be all the variations that we see are all is just the freedom that man has been given to express said sin that was gifted to us, almost.
Yeah. And I think the other way I viewed it, when I thought all of the men represented aspects of James in some way, or of or his personality that we didn't get to see other than in the flashbacks.
Yeah, maybe.
Like, I'm sure he was like Jeffrey, where he was caring to a certain point or whatever, but then he could also be like the vicar and would want sex and wouldn't care about anything else, or the kid, he just wanted to play or something, or he wanted to do whatever he wanted to do, and then if she didn't, he was very upset. That kind of, I don't think that fit, but like we've already established that doesn't fit in with all of them, because like the bartender really doesn't have anything. The cop kind of is just this sort of your authority figure idea of what a man would be if a woman had a problem, I guess, in a way. But
I can of like the creatures that we have, I've gotten like 4 of them assigned to deadly sins. So I was wondering if all of them could be deadly sins.
Probably
manifested. Because for the kid, I would probably put greed. For the priest, I'd probably put lust. For the police officer, I'd probably put sloth. For the bartender, I'd probably put wrath or anger, just because in the scenes at the house when she's charging at her, that's what I got.
Yeah.
Obviously, that still leaves gluttony, envy, and pride, but
Jeffrey might be kind of gluttony because he was really he was fairly out of shape and was very interested in the apples or the fruits and everything.
Yeah. And then envy and pride.
Would the naked man fall into envy?
Could be, because the way she stalks her.
Or he stalks her.
Yeah, that could be an allusion to envy, which means I guess that leaves pride. Would that be Harper? Or because I can't really think of a Jeff to assign pride to.
The bar goers. The bar goers.
Yeah, they're very prideful. Yeah, that's another interesting one.
Yeah.
And last but surely not least, Springs.
Okay, so your initial question you asked was, what did we interpret the ending to be, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. You took this. I never connected this to anything biblical, so that in my viewing, I saw it as just the drug scene of the dandelions.
Mm-hmm.
Continuation, I guess, till the friend arrived. All of that was a drugged state that Harper was in, and everything we were seeing is what she was seeing. Whether it was more than likely not necessarily all intact true. Likelihood is she was seeing James at the end, but it could have been another Jeff. But she was drugged, so that's what she saw and heard. After, when the friend arrived to show the car was crashed, and the blood trail to me was indicating that it wasn't faked and it was something did occur, which is me thinking that it was still what the initial naked man to me was the original, like the main one, the main Jeff, and that may have
Jeffrey
been the
Prime,
only Jeff.
if you will.
Yeah, that may have been the only one, and I think that is indications of said being real.
So for you,
That's
like, you think the only real one was the first one, the naked man?
I think the first one to ever occur or be made or to move into that town or anything before giving birth to clones or creating more of itself, like duplicates, hive mind, whatever, is this naked one, which after my first viewing I thought it was a fey wild creature due to how much nature imagery is shown.
Yeah, I got
that it
a lot
believes into itself and nature.
Yeah.
It doesn't have a house or a hut it lives in. It doesn't, it's not going through buildings. It's very nature creature.
So are you saying it just gives birth to a bunch of different versions of itself?
I think it spreads duplicates of itself, yes, to help protect it from the outside world.
The idea that
if it looks
shared damage.
Yeah,
that's the connection of it. If you cut off one hand off one of them, they'd all get their hand cut off.
The idea that, like, the Fae, and to run with your example here, the fairy monster is created these fabrications in order as an attempt to try and protect itself from the outside world.
Yes, that's why the one policewoman isn't necessarily concerned. If there was like no one in the town and it's just this one lady who called in an abandoned, an empty house, no one's around, there's just one naked person, like, it would be very concerning to this one lady. But the fact that she probably drove in, saw other cars, saw people walking to the pub, got to the house, saw these other forms of life, it didn't faze her.
Probably lives in that town though.
Could be. I mean, that's a story that's never told.
The idea that
why would she be an outside county officer checking a trespassing call?
Well, I don't know if there's any police of the town. I mean, there's that one who went to the pub, but he was a clone, so
I got the idea. I got the idea that the clone was her partner. They arrived on the scene together in the same car, that sort of thing.
Showing the naked man in his, like, not cell, because it wasn't a police station, it wasn't a jail cell, it was this bunker looking thing, which makes me think he never went to a jail. Never states that there is a jail or a prison, a police station in the town, which makes me think that it could be this police Jeffrey is the one that goes out of town, that kind of looks more on like the world out there and comes back to, indicate message. I don't know if they share a mind, because it shares, like, they all get injured the same. So I don't know if, like, the knowledge one has, another one has. I don't know if that's individual. That's never really stated. All I can really think of is when Jeffrey has the intention to run Harper over again. He's like has the thought of harming her, which is what the other ones had in senses. So that's what I think. I think it was a fey, nature being, monster of sorts, which was the naked man to start with, or I guess the one in the tunnel to start with. And the only after the fact, after viewing and looking at things to help with notes and everything, the only thing I can help with that is the director's past movies have been listed as sci-fi, with Ex Machina being artificial intelligence and Annihilation being alien. This movie is also classified under the genre of sci-fi in its definition, which is very weird because nothing to me really spoke out as sci-fi about it. But being such classification of it makes me think that this is a monster of sorts. It could not necessarily be a fake creature. It could be an alien, and this is just properties that it does and can do.
Interesting.
But I didn't think more on the alien side. The only, I guess, indication of the alien side is Ryder, what you said when she's looking up at space. That could be a connection to it, but nothing else is shown. So that was my interpretation of it.
What? So I guess with that out of the way, what would you guys rate this? Let's go in order here.
Alrighty. This is an odd one to rate, both objectively and subjectively for sure. I think the writing is pretty basic in terms of like the script and the storyline. It's everything else that's extremely abstract. So in terms of writing, I'm probably gonna give this one a solid. I'm still deciding. I think I'm gonna, for my objective rating on the writing is probably gonna be it's a 5, because there is an aspect of where I can definitely turn my like the writing is serviceable for what it is, and it's but for me, a lot of the writing, or the value of this movie is more found in the abstract than it is for like what actually happened. Because, I mean, we spent a lot of our time here talking about the symbolism in the movie and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I've settled for 5 for what I'm gonna do as my objective. For my subjective, I think I'm probably gonna give it a 6, because like I said, I have a lot of appreciation for the quiet moments in this movie where I'm left to think and ponder, and that doesn't really happen all that much. So anymore. So I'm gonna give it a 6. You're up, Crimson.
All right. So I think for my objective, I'm going to give it a 7, because, like you said, the writing is pretty simple, so there's not really much for them to screw up in that regards. And even though I don't understand what is happening, I think they achieved what they were going for, even though I don't know what it is. So I'm not going to mark them down because I don't understand what they're telling me.
Fair enough.
And we've established the shots are all pretty good. The music is solid. Harper, as a main character, did her job. So yeah, I think 7's fair. Yeah, 7 for objective. Subjective, I'd probably give this a 4, because I do not see myself watching this again. I would have really liked this movie more if it was just her dealing with the grief. I know Jeff could be a manifestation of all that and all the symbolism, but I was really into the movie up until we saw Naked Man. I thought it was really good how she was tackling the flashbacks up until that point. I liked the eeriness of the tunnel scene.
That is your favorite song in it, Crimson. You love that.
Yeah. And I also liked the music that played when she was walking through the forest and it started raining. Had like that.
That was so beautiful. Yeah.
Churchy music.
Kind of had the organs and
gothic
stuff. Yeah.
Stuff. Yeah. That was good. So yeah, I think 4. It's not a movie I'd watch again. Even if it was on TV, I'd probably find something else to watch.
Well, there you go.
So 4. Sinister.
I definitely, this movie definitely had a lot of aesthetically pleasing things to me that I generally like in my movies. I like the English countryside. I like kind of like the folklore aspect, and I think the cast in this is really good too, and I really like the cinematography. Probably some of the things that I think I would cause me to sort of probably rate this a little bit, or would go against this a little bit. I think the writing could have been. I think they could have done a little bit more with it. I'm not saying what they did with it, as simplistic as it is bad. I think that works too, but I think they could have probably done a little bit more setup and maybe even some history, setup of maybe the town or something. That might have kind of been interesting to see.
Would have certainly cleared things up a little bit.
Yeah, and I mean, maybe that would have been a bad thing, but I think they could have kept the mystery while also maybe setting up some more of the town in some way that could have maybe not necessarily closed things off, but kind of opened up more avenues of discussion, perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
But what they did with it, I think, was fine. They like you said, Geek, it was not. It was really hard to screw it up. I mean, with how little was there, so it's I think that's fine.
Yeah.
I think you can, if you go too far, you can sort of overreach and have a worse movie because of it. But so I think what they did was fine for the most part. The other thing probably would have been maybe some more concrete symbolism.
Not so abstract.
Yeah, maybe grounded it maybe just a little bit more, because, and I mean, granted, I like having multiple interpretations of something, but if the 4 of us couldn't really find anything that we all could agree on, or all find a strand for, a common thread.
Yeah, might be too open ended.
A little bit too open ended. But yeah, for the most part, I thought what special effects there were done probably as well as they could be done, and the story was intriguing, and like I said, it was a lot of aesthetic stuff and just general things I like in these sort of little indie movies. So and the camera work, with the exception of that one scene, the camera work was phenomenal and really set the mood. So I'm gonna give this 5 overall.
Alrighty.
I guess that goes to me. Yeah. Okay, so let's start with objective. Yeah. I think this is a very creative movie, which most artsy movie do. A24 is pretty much known for it, but it's very artsy and creative. I think it's very cool that there was only like 5 actors and actresses throughout the whole movie, which gave the slight feel of like a student-made film when you only have your 4 people in your group to make a short film, but they did a full-length movie with only that many people. I thought that was very cool. I find it creative that for the backstory of something so harsh and talking about death and divorce and anger, that they used orange as the overall tone color, which is a color of joy and creativity and warmth. So that was a little ironic and an interesting use. I thought all the nature shots were very nice. It was like more like photographs of like a nature book. I like the music, especially the tunnel scene, which was probably my favorite scene in the movie. Was the tunnel scene because it showed the joy of her healing and a little more childlike fun, which is kind of shown throughout the film, but it's also eerie and a bit spooky, and it later becomes like a background theme in the movie, which is very creative because it's created in a scene as just something the character's doing and gets brought up later. I think the music is very fitting and eerie at parts it needs to be, especially the end during the birthing. I thought the lighting was very good, especially how it's used for time lapsing. Like the stone pillar, the only indication that time is going is by the lighting moving on it.
Mm-hmm.
I thought the sound design was fine. I mean, the parts of quiet, the parts of just background ambiance versus just music, that all blended well. I think the only thing that's a bit weak is the not fully the up for interpretation of what is happening in the story, and it's not set in stone, which does work in some movies, which helps give audience discussion points after of like, what did you think? What did you think? But this, as Sinister said, this is a bit too much open-ended and needed a little more like identification of what is actually happening, which would help. So my overall objective, I'd give it an 8. Because I think they knew what they were doing, beginning to end. It's just there's some weak points that could have made it a stronger overall thing. For subjective, when it comes to subjective, as I stated earlier, being with our rating scale of 1 to 10, I see it as 1 through 5 is bad and just rated how bad it is, and then 6 through 10 is good, and how good is it? And thinking about that and how I rate things, this movie to me is not bad. It's not a bad movie. It's not done bad. It's has all these things going for it and things that it does. But it is not necessarily in my realm of enjoyment. It's a lot of thought, but thought that's never comes to a conclusion. It's a movie I don't think I'd go out of my way to see again. But then again, it's not a movie I will completely rid out of my brain, because I'm sure if I ever saw it, on TV or something, as Crimson said, I'd see it and I'd be able to recognize it.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, I wouldn't probably stay on it to watch the continuation of the movie. So my subjective score I would give it is a 6. It would be the lowest of good, but it is still, in my opinion, a good-looking movie.
All right, man.
Yeah.
That's everybody.
Yeah.
That's all of us. That was more than 3. You said 3 in the beginning.
Yeah.
Kill him.
Writer's the hologram. Still
Oh, okay.
I think we all gave it relatively fair scoring.
Yeah.
Nothing blown out of the water.
No, like I said, there's definitely this. This is not a bad movie. Like, a lot of care, a lot of went into this, and I think it was executed for the most part, really well. And I do tend to like Alex Garland a fair amount.
Yeah.
But this is definitely one where it's just like, this probably isn't something that I would generally watch in my free time.
Yeah.
I'll say this now. Out of his 3 movies that I've seen, Ex Machina, Annihilation, this one is my least favorite.
Yeah. No, it's I don't remember watching Annihilation, but I've definitely heard a lot about it. I have seen Ex Machina, and Ex Machina I really, really love.
Yeah,
so
I love Ex Machina.
When comparing this to Ex Machina for me, it's not really a good comparison, because I think Ex Machina is really, really good.
No, it does not. Yeah. But yeah, thank you for listening to our episode 2
Yeah.
Cheap Seat Critics.
If you watch this one first without watching the other one, you're a terrible person, and you
No, no. If they haven't seen the other movie, it makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, you should go watch episode 0 to understand why Crimson doesn't like abstract.
That's true. That's true. Episode 0 will help you understand all our points.
Yeah, before you start yelling at us, why did you hate this movie, or why didn't you not like the movie? Go watch our opinions. They'll be set up in the first one, huh? Yeah.
And let us know down below in the comment spaces what you thought about this movie. If you have any questions for us or comments or concerns about anything we have said.
Are you a man seeking opinions on men? Well,
do we have the podcast for you?
Then we have the podcast for you.
And of course, always, podcasts kind of live or die by word of mouth. So, if share this with someone who would find it enjoyable.
Yeah.
Throw words into someone's mouth, please.
The algorithm is a bitch. Like, comment, and subscribe, please.
Yes.
Yes. Those 5-star ratings on. I think that's how Spotify works. That would be helpful.
Yeah. If you don't share this, we starve. So please share.
All right.
Anyway, thank you for listening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll see you all next time.
Yeah, we'll be in the next episode.
All right. Bye, everybody.
I am Sinister Boy.
I'm Crimson Maroon.
I'm a Geeky Writer.
And I'm Springs.
And we'll see you next time.
Bye.